Good morning. We're live on the Falcons podcast on Monday morning. I'm in Mobile, Alabama. Nick is in Denver, Colorado. So we're all over the place for this Falcons podcast. We're going to bring in the Atlanta Falcons group, Atlanta Falcons on SI, and we'll bring in Scout Kennedy, which is my personal professional X handle. It looks like we're pretty well good to go. Welcome in, y'all. It is Wednesday. It is still in the midst of a frozen blast of the Southeast as temperatures were in the teens again this morning, and that's about as cold as we get in the South. And teens are cold, and yes, I know, well, it's minus 60 here in the great Upper Peninsula. I'm like, yeah, that's colder. Teens are cold. It's not a contest. But we got all kinds of things to talk about since we last talked on Monday. We got two new coordinators, special teams, offense. We talked a little bit about the Senior Bowl preview, just, what's happening there. What are the Falcons doing without a general manager? And then I was down here. I'm in Mobile for my fifth or sixth straight year, coming down to the Senior Bowl, and got some good stuff. I came down here almost completely blind. By sight, I knew the name of like three players. So it's a completely new, fresh. I don't say unbiased because there's no such thing. I see a 6'3" wide receiver walk by. I'm like, ooh, that's bias. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll hit in on your questions. But first, Nick, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's been we've had like the biggest sustained stretch of cold that I can remember out here, staying below freezing, which typically if it does snow here, it melts pretty quickly. The sun is pretty intense, but no, it's been a cold spell and doing okay. A little sad about the Broncos getting beat, but it was a good season overall, and definitely pulling for the Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's just strange. I mean, has anybody had an easier path to the Super Bowl than this Patriots team?
Probably. I mean, not that I can remember.
Did you see the post yesterday? This is nothing against the Patriots. You play who's put in front of you. I'm not mad at them. I mean, but I'm like, I've watched them. They're 16-3, and I don't know how good they are. It's like they could be. Where do they finish in the NFC West with a first place schedule with the Seahawks schedule? They 12-5, maybe still pretty good, but it is it's strange. But if Darnold is playing at a level the way he's been playing, then that's a legit team. You win that game, I'm like, okay, the Seahawks are good. They're good on defense. They run the ball. As long as Darnold doesn't turn it over 3 times, then that'd be a really good one. But it is a little interesting. But did you see? And then we'll get into the Falcons, I promise. But it is it is Super Bowl coming up. Did you see their next year's schedule and how someone wrote it out, like who they were playing and a special note? Did you happen to see that?
Was that the one with like fired head coach, Jets,
NFC South, Jets, fired head coach, NFC South, fired head coach, NFC South. It was like Jets. Jesus. I mean, that happens when a third of your league turns over, and you're matched up against the NFC South team, but NFC South I think is going to be a little bit better next year. I expect the Falcons to be more competent. The Saints are on the rise, the Panthers are on the rise, and the Buccaneers are good. They're a decent team already. So I think the NFC South is going to be better next year, period. So let's say hello to some folks. That's why we go live. And Michael Ronquillo from Arizona was the first one in today. So good morning, Mr. Ronquillo. I'm one time zone closer to you. I'm in Central here in South Alabama. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick on the Falcons podcast. Good morning back up to you. And make sure, as Michael says, hit those thumbs up and subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. We're pushing 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, including some new, Braves subscribers, because we've launched the Braves podcast as well. So appreciate you doing that. And we want to hit Curtis. Curtis is a dear member of the Falcons podcast on YouTube. And he also comes in with a super chat. And Curtis says, good morning, Nick, Scott, and Falcons Nation. That's all y'all. So good morning to all y'all from Curtis. It says, well, all we can do now is hope for the best. Was hoping he called the offense. Hope it's not a rinse and repeat. So what he's referring to is Kevin Stefanski is not going to be calling the plays, and Tommy Rees is going to be calling the plays, at least, initially. So they say. How many people are in the headset? Hopefully it's not a Hugh Freeze-Auburn situation where you got 4 different guys literally calling plays. What kind of nonsense is that, Nick? That's a different story.
Yeah.
But Tommy Rees will be calling plays. He has experience calling plays, but more in the Steve Sarkisian level of calling plays, which is on the college level. From what I gleaned from this, he hasn't called plays at the NFL level, unless he took over some in Cleveland. Okay, because I thought he did.
He did a few times.
Yes, he's inexperienced. The quote from Matt Ryan was, "He's inexperienced calling plays in the NFL, but he is experienced in calling plays." So yes, half the season at Cleveland is still inexperienced, but he has done it before.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you don't know until you know. And when you have Kevin Stefanski in here, you also have the ripcord option of, if things do not go well, you take play calling duty, because he's done it for a while and has been successful. But I don't mind the more CEO perspective from Stefanski, because it's still going to be his tenets on offense here and his philosophy. And he's going to have maybe not final say, but main say, if that makes sense, to how it is operated and what's called. So I'm not too worried about it. Again, it's an unknown, but you're not bringing in Stefanski necessarily because he's an offensive genius coming in.
Yeah,
he's good. His system is good, but it's not like it's, specifically like, oh, we're bringing in Sean McVay or Kevin O'Connell, those guys who are renowned offensive play callers. He'll still have his fingerprints all over what's going on.
Nick and Falcons Nation out there, I'd see people just, when they're poo-pooing the hire, saying, oh, he's supposed to be this offensive genius, and he was, dead last in offense in the NFL. I'm like, who's saying he's an offensive genius? I haven't necessarily heard that, so to speak. I know he's had some success, but I don't think he's a savant. Sean Payton's pretty damn good and has been pretty damn good for a long time. Sean McVay is pretty damn good and has been. Then you get to this year, it's so funny how 1 year can make such a huge difference. You mentioned McConnell up in Minnesota. That came off with the shine comes off just a little bit when your quarterback isn't playing so well and then gets hurt. You got to shuffle those guys in. All of a sudden, he's not a genius, and he's got all these weapons too. All of a sudden, he's not such a genius. It's a players' league. You can definitely screw it up for him, but you still have to have the players, for God's sakes. And injuries matter. We know this.
Yeah, I always think of the quote from, oh gosh, who would it have been? Bucky Brooks? And it might be from him quoting Bill Parcells, but there's no such thing as a Hall of Fame coach without Hall of Fame players out there. So it is a players' league. Now, granted, the system in place and maximizing football is such a small game of margins that if you are incompetent in any way, you are going to fail. But when you're talking about the upper tier, you have to have the personnel and the health at the end of the day. And
there's synergy there. Once you start doing well, you attract more players. You see a guy get waived. He gets cut. Who was it this year that ended up making an impact late? Was it Brandon Cooks? Mm-hmm. Brandon Cooks gets cut in week 11. Where's he go? He goes to a playoff contender. He goes to a place where, that doesn't happen when you're not one of those teams. Well, it works double for that in free agency. I can get more players willing to take less money to come be part of something. And you got to build that. You do. You have to build that. Thank you, Curtis. Hope you're doing well this morning, staying nice and warm. Derek Collins, good to see you too. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Stefanski feels like a meat and potatoes guy, less flash. Also glad to hear Matt Ryan speak about being process driven. Yeah, we're going to hear from Matt a lot more than we heard from Rich McKay, and that's a positive on so many different levels. One means Rich McKay, just because we didn't hear from him doesn't mean he wasn't doing stuff, but it means that Matt's involved and Rich ain't this time, which is a good thing. And then Matt is also, I think he's going to be really good at this. Mm-hmm. As far as building a culture. And again, Matt wants to win. Matt absolutely wants to win. He's not some bureaucrat protecting his ass who's more concerned about him. Matt wants to win. Sure. You can be selfish too. Yes, I want to win. I want to win for me. That's selfish, but I want to win. That's good for you too. Mm-hmm. So we have no doubt that Matt Ryan has the best interest of the franchise in mind and will do what he thinks is best for this franchise, not necessarily what's best we didn't always feel that way in the past. Good. And speaking of meat and potatoes, talking about these guys, I mean, I think it'll feel good to, the Southern football fan, Atlanta Falcons fan, and the history of this team is they want to run the ball, Nick. Kevin Stefanski wants to dominate in the trenches. He wants to run the frickin' ball.
Yeah.
And we like that. We like how that sets up. It's like, what about Drake London? What about this? Well, no. You remember Demaryius Thomas had like 1,400 yards as the only wide receiver in Georgia Tech's offense. you established the run to set up the big plays.
Yep. I mean, football is such a connected, interchangeable game. And I think about a conversation we had 3 or 4 years ago, Scott, just about the pendulum swinging and everything. But you see the Seahawks are doing a master of it right now with utilizing heavy personnel and the run game to set up explosives. I always give credit to Brian Billick, a longtime offensive focused head coach for the Baltimore Ravens, but he came up with a statistic that was called the toxicity index, and it captures 2 main things, Scott: turnovers and explosive plays. And that's, really, you follow those 2, you're obviously third down and how you do in the red zone. Like there's a lot of important factors in football, but those are the big 2. And defenses have done everything they can to limit those explosive plays. The 2 high safety shells, playing sub package on early downs, even matching sub dime against base. So you have to be able to punish those teams and get explosives from the ground game while they have lighter pass personnel on the field, and then set them up for the play action deep shots. There's been studies done, Scott, about how correlated explosive plays are to scoring points. I think if you don't get an explosive play on a drive, you have like a 10 to 15% chance of putting up points. Now, granted, this was pre-kickoff rules, so there's a little bit of a change.
Being able to kick the ball from the 50, needing 1 first down to kick the ball from the 50-yard line to score points. The average starting field position used to be like the 23, and now it's the 36. That's crazy. I need 10 yards. I'm in field goal range.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm not blaming. I don't mind the kickoff rules. The kicking rules need to change.
Yeah,
I need to be in scoring position to score.
Yeah,
scoring position shouldn't be in my own territory.
It changes the game a lot, and it changes the math. But anyway, explosive plays. I think when you have an explosive play, you have like a 70% chance of scoring, and I'm sure it's going to go even higher now because of the flipping field position. But explosive plays at the end of the day, and you're more likely to generate explosives from the pass game, but you have to get the opposing team into situations where you can take advantage of them. And a lot of times that can come from the threat of the run and punishing them with the run. And I'm really happy to have Stefanski in here. And we talked about, Bijan Robinson, he's going to go 1.1 in the upcoming fantasy drafts. I have zero doubt. And they are going to use him. He's not a luxury. He's a centerpiece. He is the engine of the offense for a physical run game. We've seen it with Nick Chubb as well. So I don't know what it means about Bijan Robinson 5-year perspective.
Yeah, I was like long-term.
But
I don't necessarily want more touches from him. I want more efficient touches from him. And they did it this year. They did for the most part. He got, a similar amount of touches and had more yards and more touchdowns. That's what we want. I don't want him to be running to the ground. I don't want to be washed up at 27 years old.
Yeah. And I really did love, obviously you have the wide zone that's going to be coming here from Stefanski, given his tenets in the run game. And I loved how they were talking about him being, it's all true. We heard about it in the draft and everything, but a special person, talking about his team first mindset and intelligence. You kind of have to be to split the carries like he did and the frustrations that they had on offense. So I'm excited about Bijan this year. I'm going to miss Tyler Algier. I'm assuming that he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone. And God bless.
Pay him and then pay Bijan.
Yeah. Go to a good situation, and where you can win, and let's get out of the division. I was asked Monday, it's like, oh, someone said he'd be a great fit with Tampa. Well, he'd be a great fit anywhere, but he's not going to Tampa to be a running back 2. If he wants to be a running back 2 behind, just stay in Atlanta, and play for Stefanski. You instead of moving everything, place where you've been for the last 4 years. You just stay in Atlanta. That's easy. Corey Carter coming in with a super. Thank you, Corey. He says, feels like the same old thing to me, just with different guys. Hopefully Matt doesn't get lost in the collaboration soup. Yeah, I saw the word, as I'm reading through the transcripts and stuff. Collective. I'm like, no, not the C word.
Synergy. We need to promote synergy.
But the other word you heard in there was accountability. And frankly, Corey, something you need to remember. It's a press conference. and it's coach speak answers, it's GM speak answers. How many times have you heard me come on here and joke about, okay, I'm going to give you a preview, and I say within a 10% variance exactly what they end up saying later on? You know, I mean, what do you think Kevin Stefanski is going to say about Baker Mayfield? I have a lot of respect for Baker Mayfield and his family. Great football player.
Enjoyed working together.
Going to a great team and a good system.
Games.
Really enjoyed coaching him, and good luck to him. As you know, we're looking forward to playing Tampa too. It's a big game and a big rivalry. Duh. You know, so Corey, there's a reason why it all sounds the same, and that's okay. I mean, we expect that, and this isn't just, you know, it feels like the same old thing to me, and it will for now until we get out there. And there's differences you notice. I noticed a difference between year 1 and year 2 of Raheem Morris as far as the energy on defense, the competition in practice. We saw those things, and it was tangible. And then we saw it when it translated to the field. But then a lot of the same old problems kept bubbling up, including, you know, special teams. In one-score games, if you're dead last in special teams, you're going to lose a lot of those, and they did. So speaking of special teams, Nick, the Falcons did hire a new special teams coordinator. I know there was some fear on Monday when we talked, and it might have been Curtis said, you know, I don't want him to bring the guy down from Cleveland. Well, he didn't. He brought the guy up from the Miami Dolphins, Craig Aukerman. What do you know about him and their units over his tenure?
He's been in the league for a bit, 16 years, 8 as a coordinator. Overall, been pretty successful with the Dolphins. And special teams is always weird because they want to sometimes attribute the stats of the kickers and the punters with them. But I don't know if we lost you there, Scott. You're frozen. But chat, let me know. But yeah, no, their special teams has been pretty darn good overall. He's had a few All-Pros during his time, and I feel like they've been rather pretty good in the penalties. I mean, that's a huge underrated part of special teams, like ball security and not having penalties when you are running bringing the ball back, or you're going down and making a play. So they've been pretty good, a good amount of blocked field goals during his time there as well. And he's been seasoned. He's rubbed elbows with Tennessee, obviously Miami. He was out there with the Rams for a while. I bet you the Rams missed him this year, given how their special teams went. And he's had, like I said, multiple Pro Bowlers at punters, long snapper, et cetera, et cetera. So special teams is one of those things. It takes a little bit, and he's going to have eyes on him, given the kicking issues with the Atlanta Falcons. But with the Atlanta Falcons last season. But we'll see. I mean, he is somebody that has been in the league for a while and has been successful, and I'll be curious to see how he also intertwines with Ulbrich. I mean, a lot of the tenets and takeaways from the press conference, Scott, has been, playing really fast, physical football, top to bottom, and the player development side of things, which special teams rubs your elbows on both sides of the ball, right? You have to pull from the wide receivers, the defensive backs, the defensive line. I mean, you are working with everybody, and if you're developing and bringing fast, physical, tackling players, it should trickle its way up. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the kicker itself is going to be fixed with him, but the core 4 units, I'm excited to see what they look like going forward.
So you mentioned me freezing for just a little bit. That started happening. I figured it out. Chrome did an update, and I was freezing up when I was going to check on Spot Rack to look at numbers, or over to Tankathon, something like that. No. And when you said that, I had just gone to X to look at something here real quick, and it froze up a little bit. So there's an update on Chrome that is playing a little havoc with this, and it shouldn't. I've got way too much machine, and I got a Verbo instead of a hotel, as you probably can tell. I Verboed a place here because there were 2 of us, and it was just easier to travel, and it was cheaper, and the accommodations are great. I tapped into their router here. It's got gigabit Ethernet, much better than the spinning hamster wheel I was getting at one of the old places the past couple of years. So should be able to get up some video much quicker today. And as Evan says, I've been talking about the Senior Bowl. He says, I've been seeing a lot of clips of the O-line getting destroyed by the D-line guys. Is that just people getting clicks, or is the D-line really that good? If I'm doing a one-on-one, Evan, and I get a win from an offensive lineman, it basically just looks like 2 guys standing there. It's just not really all that exciting. But to me, it is. To me, that's a win. And but it's not going to go viral like that. So, and then you see a guy who was at number 8 yesterday for Michigan. Derek Moore, I believe his name was.
David Moore?
I think it was Derek Moore. It says
Derek
D-E-R. Derek Moore, number 8. Yeah, Derek Moore from Michigan. You know, he blows by his guy. Just whoosh. I missed it. I saw it, but I missed it with my camera. Apologies. I'll maybe can find it somewhere else. And, you know, that looks better. Tim Keenan. He had an okay day at nose guard, but towards the end, his main move, he's a punch club. So he swings a big right arm at guys, and he got a guy off balance. You know, you got a 300-pound center, and you hit him with a club into the shoulder pad, and you move him a full body width away. That gets your attention a lot more than, you know, number 72. Oh, love this kid, Nick. Number 72, James Brockenmeyer from Miami, Florida at center.
He's been good.
Just chopping his feet and keeping in front of you and mirroring a guy like, you know, and he's not moving. I mean, he was a technician. I'll show y'all some video on this for sure. And I'll put them all up. I'll put up all the 1v1s today. That's not all that exciting to watch, you know, from a woo factor. The first round, because they actually did 2 sessions. I've got 55 1v1s from the American team yesterday. That's a lot. The first session, then they broke to teams, and they did a second session of 1v1s. The first session, the offensive line swallowed up the defensive line with 1 or 2 exceptions. It was dominated. Then when they got back, the defensive line got the better of them. And I'm looking at Chad Jensen, who was staying with me from Mile Huddle, came in from the West. I said, someone challenged the manhood of those boys, because the offensive line dominated the defensive line in the first session of the American. And the American teams are Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, LSU. So the ones near and dear to our hearts. So appreciate it. King Atlanta supporter, dear member, says, what's up, Kings? How you doing? Dantes Jackson, he's here with the red and the black. He's also a member. So is Unbeatable. So thank you so much. GATX, season member 2. Got lots of members coming in today. Seeing more and more of these. I love it. Dirty Bird Star says, morning, Scott and Nick and Dirty Bird Nation. That's all y'all. So good morning from DBS. So a bunch of people complaining about Stefanski's intro being on the same day as the Senior Bowl. Is it really that big of a deal? No. Coaches don't come down here for the most part. He wouldn't have been here. What were they complaining about? You know, take away the shine from the Senior Bowl? Senior Bowl's for nuts like us. It's not a high revenue's not the right word. Audience type of thing, Nick.
I think the frustration is that they want them there.
Yeah, the coaches don't
you
come
should
down
be
here.
at the Senior Bowl. Like, why isn't Matt Ryan dealing with that? Well, they have a general manager searched to deal with. They don't have a first-round pick, and
which is a different problem, Nick.
Yes,
why isn't they in place before here? But they've got their scouting staff here. But why hasn't the new general manager? These are all questions I asked on Monday.
Yep.
Why isn't the new general manager bringing in his own scouting staff? Is it just a holdover? You're coming in. Is this the holdup? Is it why is this taking so long?
Sometimes, as far as the boots on the ground of a player personnel, you'll see them fired on like a second Black Monday. There's like a super secret Black Monday, Scott, and it's the Monday following the draft, right? A lot of times you'll see a lot of front office upheaval after the off-season cycle occurs. So what I would imagine is that you will have a general manager come in here, and you are still going to use the notes from a lot of the people that are in the front office currently for the off-season. Obviously, Stefanski, Matt Ryan. For pro personnel, it'll be a little different, but the draft, the guys, the boots on the ground, day 2, day 3 picks. And then after that, you'll probably see some upheaval and turnover would be my assumption, but we'll see.
Nick, how I put it was, anybody you're hiring to scout has been scouting. You know, I mean, if they're not qualified to tell you at this point, you know, a lot about this class, I don't want them. What have you been doing? You know, what have you been doing? I'm not qualified to do that, but by April, I'll be pretty good at it. You know, that's not even my full-time job. So I want to show you one of my favorite guys, Nick. Let me go clip 275 here. I'm not sure which one this is. He has a couple of them. This is number 70, Markel Bell, Miami, Florida. And I was like, that's a big dude. He didn't measure. I'm like, damn it. The one guy, so he may have been a late addition, but he came in. He's listed on the roster at 6'9", 340. And I believe it. And at 6'9", 340, I remember thinking as I'm watching him, because he's one of the only guys not leggings, I'm like, maybe it's an optical illusion. I'm like, his legs are actually kind of skinny. This guy's got 30 pounds left in his legs. But he's, talk about the dominating. See, that's dominating. That is just absolutely swallowing a guy up. But that's not all that exciting to watch. But that is a dominating rep at left tackle. That guy's done. He's absolutely taken out, done for, Dunzales. I mentioned his teammate, Brockenmeyer. Let me find that one. That's clip 331. At center. Anybody looking for a center? If nobody likes this guy, I'll take him on day 3. 331. This kid is an absolute technician, and hopefully I've got one with a little bit better of a lead in this time. Yeah, here we go. So he's at center. And look at his feet chopping. Look how fast his feet are. And that's 96. That's Tim Keenan, who just chucked the guy out of the way later on in these clips and got one of those big woo moments. Well, James Brockenmeyer just quietly erased him. So I would give the overall advantage yesterday to the offensive line. And Nick, what was interesting to me is, these guys, they play all over the place, right? In these things, you'll see guys play guard, tackle, et cetera, et cetera. They'll move all over the place. Jake Slaughter, All-American center, Florida. When he was at center, he was money. Moved him to left guard, awful. And it's a different caliber of guy. It's a totally different type of rusher you're going against. If you're going against an end that's coming inside, then head up on somebody. And then Boston College, 68, Logan Taylor.
Yeah, he had a good day.
Right guard, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Went to the left side, got his ass whipped. So it's all, you got to see the whole picture. And John Harrell, good morning. Hope you are doing well. But we got a lot of that stuff. I've got more cameras down here than I've ever had. So hopefully I'm not collecting too much and we'll forget.
Yeah, I will say also, just for the multi approach for the offensive line, being utility and finding multiple avenues to the field just makes you so much more valuable. Because it's hard to be a starter long term, and especially if you're an interior guy and you only can play one position. A lot of times you see that with center because they're so small. It's a lot of combo blocks, but if you can be multi-positional on the line, it is super valuable. And I think it probably must have been the other side, Scott, but I was going to ask about what your thoughts were the two from the two Iowa guys that were down there. They
had good day. Was that big 68, the big red-headed caveman that you were always sending me stuff?
Yeah,
he's a character. I haven't watched him yet. I had to move. They moved practice to almost 3 hours later. Mm-hmm. And it used to be you could only be on one side and only NFL personnel could be on the other. So everybody's used to being on this one side. But I was staring right into the sun for the first practice. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I cannot see. Yeah. So, and I'm looking at my screen. I'm like, I've got this framed. And that's what I'm looking at, just shadows of a frame to see if I can even see it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not watching the action. I'm trying to keep it in frame so I can watch it later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so bright, dead in my face. I don't know that it's focusing. So I'm hoping I didn't waste a whole day on that, but he looked good. He had a good day.
They also have a left guard who's pretty good too. From what I've heard,
both. I remember seeing them both doing, having moments, but I can't speak on them. Yeah. Emphatically.
And just some other guys.
Corey says, Corey also comes in with a super. He says, why do we need a general manager if we have a president?
Different roles. President is a little bit more overarching. They were dealing with a lot of the operational stuff for the football team to even occur. I mean, you're talking about like making sure the right towels are on the bench.
I was going to say the grass. I was like, there's a tear in the seam at Mercedes-Benz Field. It needs to be fixed. Ultimately, who is responsible for making that happen?
And you need to get the right equipment for the strength and conditioning coaches and making sure you're hiring the right people there. So it is very broad and overarching from the operations of running a football organization itself for the president, where general manager is personnel oriented. So it is a different. Sometimes you'll see a head coach or a general manager that's been there a while have some of those responsibilities. Some of the stuff the lines do blur, but essentially, yeah, it's a different position. It's much more umbrella for everything that's going on your football experience.
And they still use the term general manager, but it's really narrowed down into a role of director of personnel.
Yeah.
They handle the roster. Their main focus is the roster. It's a vice president of personnel is what a lot of general managers are now these days. And they're put on level with the head coaches instead of the general manager being one step ahead of them on the org chart. And what's different, I saw someone come into Garrett's chat yesterday, and the logical fallacy of leading with a false statement and turning that into a question, which is, I forgot exactly what it said, but I'm like, well, that's not true. You can't ask me that question based on something that isn't true. Where am I going with this? I think if you see, things really haven't changed. What's changed? I'm like, well, the structure is changed a little bit. I think that's what it was. The head coaching and coaching structure hasn't really changed. What's changed is Matt Ryan is replacing Rich McKay and Arthur Blank. That's what's changed. The two non-football guys are moving. One's been moved out, and one of them has taken himself 2 steps back. That's Arthur Blank. He's put 2 spaces. He's put his money guy and his football guy in between him and the football team. That's what Arthur Blank has done. Now you got a football guy. Wait, hold on. This is going to sound crazy, but you got a football guy in charge of football. Whoa. And that's the only thing that's changed. I see this nonsense like, well, there won't be a comp pick for one of these guys because they're not the main decision maker. Bro, they're general manager and it's a promotion. There's comp picks. And it's a lot that setup is similar around football. It's like that in a lot of places. Not just it's just changed. There's too much going on. It's too valuable to not spread out the responsibilities. But ultimately, someone has to be the boss. That's Arthur Blank, and then it's Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, Scott. I've said it on here before. You won't know for a while if it's working out because it takes 3-4 seasons. The further you are removed from the field, the harder it is to evaluate your actual impact on the game. So for Matt Ryan, I'm hoping he gets a long leash. Now, granted, the results on the field will have to bear out for that to happen, but I would imagine, we'll find out long term, and it'll come down to the success of obviously the team, but the coaching staff that he's bringing in as well. So we got Javier coming in here, says, what day 3 OTs do you like? We sound strange. # we sound strange. Scott was talking about the guy from Miami that might be a day 3 offensive tackles, but I'll tell you, day 3 is never really where you want to be shopping for your offensive tackles because there's no position that is like, what do they call it? First central casting, Scott, for offensive line. Like they know the body type, the arm length, the athleticism that is requisite for the offensive line position. And outside of quarterback, there's not a position where it's like as first round quality versus the rest of the draft.
The correlation, the hit rate.
Yeah.
But they're out there. I mean, they're out there. We've seen them.
They are. But and you shouldn't take one. And there's valuable to a swing tackle. I mean, if you're paying little for a developmental guy who can come in and play either guard spot or right tackle, that guy's worth a lot if you can find that. But
I don't necessarily need him this year.
No.
I mean, like talking about, I look at NFL mock draft database. I'm like, all right, where do they have this Markel Bell, undrafted free agent? That's where they've got him ranked. If he goes as an undrafted free agent, I will be absolutely friggin' shocked.
Too bad.
And when he ends up playing in the league, I will hold that grudge the way I hold on to Spencer Brown, the way I hold on to Jalen Mayfield getting drafted in the 60s and Spencer Brown falling to the 90s, where one of them's out of football in 3 years and one of them signed a second contract worth about $100 million. I'm like, that was easy. This is easy. This isn't that hard, y'all. You got a guy who's 6'8" that's moving like LeBron James and can bench press 500 pounds. Draft him. That's not that hard. So this Markel Bell, he's an NFL guy. Let me know, Nick, what do you know about J.C. Davis, Illinois? Because that's Jeremiah Wright. And that was a good rep from him, Jeremiah Wright. That's the wrong. He got called out in the call-outs. So that was 70. I wanted 77. 77 is Jeremiah Wright, dum-dum. I wanted 331, which is that's the wrong guy. So maybe I've got the wrong guy, and I haven't put I haven't put names to numbers yet. So when I list them, I just put them as numbers, and then I have to go, okay, what number was that guy? What number was that guy? So I haven't learned all of this yet. I'm just still going through it, or I recognize him by it. But I thought J.C. Davis from Illinois did okay. What was 74? 74 was 340. So let's get it. Now that I've teased up J.C. Davis from Illinois, he was file 340, which is this one. And let's bring him up there. He moved both sides. He's at guard there, actually. But that's a win. That's a big win. And 22 had a good day off the edge. So that's a big win right there. But he lined up at tackle and guard. Is a guy to keep an eye on. Had a few wins today. But when we're talking about why do I see more defensive line on social media than offensive line, this is why. This is a big win for the offensive line. But listen to the crowd. You don't hear anything, do you? It's not exciting, except to a coach, an offensive line coach, or someone who needs help in the trenches. He gets 3 stars next to his name after that rep.
Yeah, and Brett Bielema, obviously the coach there, and they're going to be very physical. I know at that time at Arkansas wasn't good, but I think what he's done at Illinois and his time at Wisconsin with the style of play that they have is worth noting there for him. But the guy from Illinois that really stood out to me, Scott, was Gabe Jackas. I don't know if you got a chance.
52. Yeah. Chad wrote up last night. He said, who Senior Bowl standouts. It was 52. I think he was one of them. His motor is so good.
He's a glass eater, man. I just wanted a few names, Scott. Gabe Jackas, Zion Young from Missouri, who is like 6'5", 270.
He was number 9 then, wasn't he? He was number 9 in Missouri. Yep, he had a good day.
And then I
didn't look up his height and weight. I didn't realize he was that big. Now I like him even better. Yeah, I like him even better. Number 9, Missouri was solid.
Setter. He's got a big wingspan too. Yeah, he's a big player. And then the guy who I think is emerging as my favorite, Scott. I'm surprised. I don't know if you caught him too much, but I always get his names mixed up because he's got 2 last names. Hunter Lee, Texas Tech.
Yeah, I didn't see him.
My God, Scott.
Well, I mean, I did. He was wearing number 10, but I haven't watched those guys extensively yet. This was this was the rep from Jackas that got my first attention, and it's kind of nice. I ran into Aaron Freeman. Y'all know Aaron Freeman. He's locked in Falcons. Locked on Falcons podcast. Good dude. Ran into him yesterday. He's like, I'm gonna go watch the skill guys. It's weird not watching for edge rushers. And I'm like, well, I'm watching for edge rushers just because this is also for the YouTube channel, which is for everybody and not just Falcons fans. But the motor on this guy, this is Jackas coming off the left end here, and nice bend around the corner. That's there's nothing there that's like, oh my God. But I don't know. I can just tell the way they move and they bend. It's different to me. I feel it. I see it when I'm watching this guy. And, I kind of always took that for granted. I'm like, well, what do you mean you can't see it? I'm like, well, what's special about that guy? There's something to this guy. His bend, his twitch, his move. He just moves differently. And I'm not going to put the one. He had one that I thought he won. Oh, I might as well put this up here because I'll just show all 3 of them because he had 3 clips on here. 338. He came off of this one saying that was too easy. That was too easy. Coming off here again. Gets inside, gets under, and then comes around him. And he's like, that was too easy. And I want to show you too easy was his last rep was Jackas on 345. Was his last rep was too easy because he comes off of that one saying too easy. Well, what would you call This then. And that was Jake Slaughter at guard. Jake Slaughter did really well at center. Jake Slaughter at guard was head down, one bump, and whiff. This is him. I mean,
yeah,
it's a different level of player. It's a really different type of player. He's used to being able to reach guys that go 310. And this guy is a different level of athlete from a speed perspective and quickness perspective. But yeah, good call out, Nick. Jack has had a really, really good day.
And the guy who impressed me the most, but I'm always going to be the most impressed by massive athletes who can move. But Lee Hunter, nose tackle from Texas, massive, really good burst, good strength. Now he can play a little high sometimes, but he has the ability, like sometimes nose tackles are just disruptors, right? He has the ability to split double teams and then pursue. And he is 6'3", 330. So he really stood out to me. I think he's got a chance to be, I mean, he might, I know how much you like Caden McDonald, Scott, but I think there's more juice with Hunter as a pass rusher. So check him out from Texas Tech.
Do I like Caden McDonald? Who's Caden McDonald?
The Ohio State defensive tackle you've talked about.
Okay. Like he was, yeah. And I'm just saying he fits the bill. I don't necessarily, I've never even watched him play. I was just like, okay, he's ranked in this area and he's this size. That was where I said this fits. I don't know how, I haven't actually scouted. I'm scouting spreadsheets up till now. Now I'm watching players.
Hunter is one
that fits. I don't know if he's the guy, but 6'3", 330 fits what the Falcons need.
He moves like he's 305, if that makes sense. Like he's actually got some real burst in. And if you went back and watched I don't even remember what bowl game it was, but Texas Tech, Oregon, like you will be like, oh my God, this guy is freaking dominating up front. And they have obviously David Bailey as well on that Texas Tech front, who will be a top 10 pick, I would imagine, but keep an eye out for Hunter as well. He really, really was impressive. Sam also points out, somebody told me this yesterday, Daniel Jeremiah had Hunter in as like top 25 for the draft, but there's like a bunch of defensive tackles for Jeremiah ranked 20 through 45. So
the first video I'm going to post today, y'all, and it takes a while to do these, will be the offense and defensive line one-on-ones, and there's 50 reps in here. So I label them, process them, upload them. The uploading speed will be a lot faster than this year, so that won't take as long. But I'll have that up hopefully by noon. Will be my one video this morning, and then I'm going to go back to practice. Just off the hoof, watching a guy move around, staring into the sun, it was tough. But a guy that just caught my attention right away, just, again, the way he moves is different, the one-handed catches. And then he ended up being just a shade bigger than I thought he was going to be. Was wide receiver Caleb Douglas, Texas Tech. He made himself some money showing up here already. So we have a couple guys. It's not always a great place for skill guys, but there end up being guys that can make themselves a ton of money. Christian Watson was here. Ricky Pearsall was here. Who was a kid from Michigan? The wide receiver in the same time as Ricky Pearsall, who had a really good first day and then bolted.
Was it Reed, Michigan?
No, I thought it was Michigan. I might be confused. There was another small
he was drafted by Pittsburgh. I cannot think of who it is. Somebody in the chat maybe help us out here.
But he ended up having a good day. Making some money on that day too. But like him and Pearsall both bolted after. Mic drop days. There are some wide receivers that
Malachi Fields, I think, stood out.
Wasn't him. Was it Tank Dell had a really? Wasn't he the kid from Houston that had a really good day and made some money down here too? So there's guys here that we'll be interested in on day two for sure, as people to keep an eye out for. Flipping back towards the Atlanta Falcons.
Roman Wilson, Scott.
Roman Wilson was who I was thinking of, 100%.
I saw the name, there it is.
He made a ton of money at the Senior Bowl.
Hasn't done much in the league, but
Ricky Pearsall he's had some good moments. He's had trouble staying healthy, but Pearsall hasn't. Christian Watson, speaking of having trouble staying healthy, he got like a 1 year, can you stay healthy, big time contract, and when he's out there, he's really good. Rio, good to see you. He says, good morning, fellas. Good morning, right back at you. He says, I have my reservation about some of the hires, but I trust Matt Ryan. On to the draft. Can you keep your eyes out for a sleeper tight end? Yeah, there were some good safety blanket tight ends that were here. There's so many checkdowns at the beginning. So a lot of the live when they go 11v11 ends up going to running backs and tight ends. So we'll get a good look at those guys, and then I'll get another good look at their blocking as we move forward. I can't see that right away, but who was that guy that I loved, Nick? And you're like, he's soft. He was like, he was huge, and he had like an orange helmet. It wasn't Oklahoma State. I think he may have gone to the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm like, look at that. I showed you, and I emailed you like 3 clips, and he was like 6'7", 280. And you're like, yeah, but he was soft. It may have been an Iowa State guy too. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I'll have to look it back. I'm getting, and I'm like, I'll find those, those guys ended up being pretty good. They grow up some. Trust Matt Ryan. And again, when it comes to trust, I always blanched at the yes, and this is why my forehead is nice and shiny today. So thank you for helping to keep the lights on and keep my forehead this shiny. And yes, I do powder it at home. This is why. Keep an eye out for that for sure. Always looking for day 2, day 3 offensive linemen. Corners are tough, linebackers are tough, running backs are tough here, but the trenches can find depth pieces in the trenches. And there will be some wide receivers that will come out of this thing and enhance their stock and become players. Absolutely, they will. But I always hated the trust the coaches mantra. It's like we're in this, because people would drop that like they're playing some trump card. It's like, well, I don't know about this. I didn't really like this player. This might not have been we'll trust the coaches. Like, oh, that's the end of the argument. Well, why are you here? What are we even discussing if your answer to everything is trust the coaches? I trust the coaches to try and do what's best. Not all of them, but to do what's best. I trust Matt Ryan that he is going to do what he thinks he is best, what is best for this franchise, for this organization. I absolutely have full faith in that. I do not trust and have full faith, blind faith and loyalty that he is going to get it right. And that's what we're here for. Let's talk about, some of the moves. We'll debate them. I don't like the Stefanski hire. I love the Stefanski hire. Okay, let's talk about it. There's nobody's right or wrong when we're predicting the future. Why would you bring this guy here from this? Tommy Reese doesn't call plays. We're going through a first-time play caller again. I get it. That's what the discussions are for. So when it comes to trust, I trust for them to do what they think is best. I do not trust that they're going to get it right. You know why? Because they don't a lot of the times. And every coach ends up getting fired because they don't all get it right. So there's no reason to just blindly trust that whatever they do is the right move. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to, Rio. And I appreciate you being here and as one of our core members of the Falcons podcast and always having a great discussion with us and keeping us on our toes and being in the comments and everything. So thank you, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate you, Rio. Some final thoughts here for me, Scott. I know that the Falcons drafted Pierce and Walker early last season. Who do you love behind those guys on this team right now?
What was the question? Yeah, I hit the.
It's okay. No, it's okay.
Comments.
So you have Pierce and Walker, but behind those guys, do you have crickets?
Ebiketti's a free agent. I would try and, you're wondering, is Braylon Trice going to be healthy? Can you count on him? That you're counting on him to take the place of Arnold Ebiketti.
Yeah.
And I think you need to come up with some money to get a veteran like Leonard Floyd back. Leonard, can you come back? Leonard played well. I don't care what PFF says. And even his numbers weren't great. He had like 2 sacks or something. They weren't great. I know when I watched Leonard Floyd on the field, he played well. He was disruptive. He was holding the edge. He was doing well. And I know the young players, if I've got a veteran, I've got young players playing well, the veteran's got something to do with that. So I want a veteran back like him. And,
I guess my point is being this is a really deep edge class. Like it's a weak class overall, but it's deep at edge. And if I'm not 5 deep at edge, I'm considering drafting one. So just let the first day of the Senior Bowl stand out and just this draft at large, where can I get a premium skill set to get the most return compared to the open market dollar? And I think it's very possible it could be edge. And I see Gator Boys talking about some. Zach Harrison's more of your 4-eye. Like he's
he's an end.
Slashing interior.
He's an end. He's not an outside linebacker.
Yeah. So I would think all I'm saying is that edge is deep this year. And even though you took 2 that look pretty good from last season, it's a position that you be greedy. There's like a lot of value to being greedy on the defensive line. So if the board comes down that way, and there's 2 more edges who really stood out for me in the reps that I saw, Scott, and that is TJ Parker from Clemson, who is like body beautiful, but Clemson was kind of a joke.
Yeah, he'll go first round.
He looks like a first rounder. And then also the Quintavious Hutchins from Boston College, also really good bend, pretty darn explosive. Boston College, obviously not a good college football program, but 2 other edges that I thought really had a pretty good day. A little bit disappointed for some of the defensive tackle. Caleb Banks from Florida, he missed a lot of time this season, but he didn't look good at all. But I just wanted to call it the edge talent. I think it's a pretty deep position, and it's the defensive tackle and edge rusher. If I'm not 5 deep at each position, I'm considering them early because you cannot have enough.
Yeah, and you can address some of the other problems in free agency with I can spend $5 million and get good depth at a lot of positions in free agency. Edge is not necessarily one of them. So that's where it makes sense. Maybe go here. And Hucklebuck says wide receiver, nose tackle with our second pick, period, or corner. I'd be happy with a corner in that spot, period, Hucklebuck. So I'd take a corner in that spot. My number 1 priority for this team in that spot would be wide receiver. But if it's not there, it's not there. I'm not reaching. Not in the top 50.
Are the Falcons a wide receiver or nose tackle?
That's how you end up with bad players.
Yep. Are the Falcons a wide receiver or nose tackle away from winning the Super Bowl next year?
Nope.
Then take the best talent on your board. And I know that's always got that rolls your eyes.
It's got to be close. If it's in tiers, like you say, in tiers. Yeah.
Your board, you have a horizontal board where guys are on tiers, like you mentioned, and you have the grade on the players, but then there's weights, if you guys are total math nerds like I am, based on positional value as well as your team needs. And your board's going to be much smaller than the basic one because you have guys that will not fit what the team wants to run schematically, and they'll have guys that they do not believe in from a character perspective as well. So your boards will be much smaller, but you have your horizontal boards, and a lot of times tie will go to a need at that point or a position of value. But let's say
premium position. Yeah.
Where are you? What's the Falcons' first pick? Is it
45?
45? Let's say you're sitting there at
probably
45.
See if I freeze up again when I go over to Tankathon and look.
You did.
Yeah. See, that's what's happening. It's a new Chrome thing. It's 48 as a first pick. So it's 48, 79, 114, 195, and 231. When I go away from this tab now, it's freezing up, and that shouldn't happen. I've got way too much computer and way too much internet and video card for that to happen. And that's happened since the latest update on Chrome that started happening.
Hucklebuck also says cornerbacks and free agency, period.
I
don't have enough time to get into
I'll take 2 corners. I want 2 corners. I want 2 wide receivers. I want a wide receiver and a corner in free agency.
And
I also want one of each in the draft too.
From an age perspective, also cornerback is the most like running back, where you're getting value 4-6 years, but they fall off a freaking cliff. So I'd always be
corners are 22 to 27 years old.
I don't think there's been an all-pro cornerback who's been over 26 years old in like a decade. So paying second contract cornerbacks is always a little bit risky, in my opinion. Now, granted, you can do some mercenary stuff, and that's fine. But there's a reason that the market has been really outpaced by defensive linemen and wide receivers as well. It's just you're not getting value on those third contracts. Second contracts is even a little scary if they're long enough. But I digress. If you're picking there at 48 and you're not a single position away from anything, the talent needs to dictate direction more than anything.
Yeah, and it will. I do have faith that it will. Hey, we're drafting. I don't know. We're going to franchise tag Kyle Pitts. We're going to draft a tight end at 48. No, there's not a tight end at 48 that's
not this class
worth at 48.
No,
but when are the linebackers being shown, Chris? I don't know if you mean like broadcast. Is the NFL Network? Are they still broadcasting this thing?
I think so.
For Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the
So
office.
I don't know if
I
you
mean,
mean us or them as far as Senior Bowl stuff goes, but for the most part, the answer to this and running backs is they're not. There's no tackling. They're allowed to bump. They go by and they basically pull a flag. You'll have a drop back pass, edge rusher will win, and he'll go back and just tap the guy on the butt and keep on running, and then they'll let the play run. You cannot scout linebackers and running backs for the most part at these events because they're not allowed to hit or be hit. And if I can't see a guy hit or be hit, I don't know what I got. I can for running backs, I can check their hands a little bit. There's still they're still not going to get blown up.
some pass
Catching the
protection
ball
stuff.
when catching the ball on a hospital pass versus catching the ball, it's when I know I'm not going to be hit are two different things. So as far as running backs and linebackers, they're not shown. Game time, the game on Saturday. That's when they finally get a chance to show what they can do. And frankly, maybe the best linebacker I've seen down here at the Senior Bowl in 6 years was Troy Anderson. Was Troy? I mean, there's a reason he went second round. That's a big time pick at linebacker. Nick, go for a second.
Yeah, no problem here. Scott's coughing up. We do need to wrap up here pretty soon, but yeah, for the Falcons, you're going to have options on the defensive line. You're going to have options for offensive line, wide receiver, and cornerback. So really, there's going to be a chance to add talent, and it's not the worst year not to have your first pick. So we'll see how it plays out. I'll also be curious to see what the Falcons do with the Y tight end. You mentioned, Scott, it's not an amazing class at tight end. If it was really deep and there was somebody I stood out to me, I'd maybe say, oh, maybe you take a tight end there, given how much Stefanski loves to run 12. But we'll see what happens. We got Troy coming in. Says if Ellis walks, does Walker step in? I think you're probably
one of the last things I want to hit on, Nick. I want you to go first.
I think you're probably not messing with Walker too much. Now, maybe there's some third down stuff where he's a mug linebacker over the A gap or looping around B gap, C with twists and stunts. But I think you probably don't want to mess with him too much. He played kind of more of a funnel downhill attacking role at Georgia, which lends itself more to pass rush and pursuit than it does sifting through blockers, play action, coverage responsibilities. So I think there is third down usage with him and where he can overlap Caden Ellis's role in that. But early down, I think you probably need a first and second down backer who is actually just, a backer.
Yeah, I don't want him running into pulling guards. He's too valuable in what he can do rushing the passer. I took myself off mute. That I want him at edge first. And I want someone that's in the 250 range at linebacker. But it is if Ellis walks, the only guys you've got under contract, you might have one of the practice squad guys or to a futures contract, but you've got Divine because Hucklebuck saying cut Troy Anderson. You don't have to. Troy's a free agent, so his rookie contract is up. He's been here 4 years already. So Troy's gone. If Caden's gone, that's 2. And then you've got Divine and JC as your linebackers. That ain't gonna cut it. So you need to spend a little bit of money, but you can get value. I mean, Divine was $7 million. Caden was $7 million. I can get quality for not a ton of money at linebacker. So I would look the free agent route first before spending a draft pick, and then I would also try and trade down. If 48 is my first pick, can I pick up another 6-rounder by going to 51? And I would if I'm sitting there at 79 with my next pick, can I pick up another 7th rounder by going to 85? And then I have 2 more players for moving down a total of 7 spots. I would absolutely be looking to do that to pick up some more pieces because this team lacks depth. You lose. There was a question here, and it was from Terry, and then we'll be done. The number 1 need for next year's roster. He says minus QB. And you might have your answer at quarterback, but to me, it's wide receiver. It's Drake and then practice squad guys, literally. The guys that were the guys that lined up next to Drake this year at wide receiver were from the practice squads. David Sills has been a practice squad player his whole career, and he ended up being the number 2 receiver. And then anybody else from there was literally elevated from the practice squad after that. Or Casey Washington, who will probably be on a practice squad next year. So it's wide receiver.
The one thing that's nice about that for you guys is that you have a no doubt wide receiver 1, and you have an offensive weapon who you can build the plane out of in Bijan Robinson. So you can find, I think it has to be a free agent move at the end, probably a free agent paired with a draft pick just so you can raise the floor. And I know that that's expensive, but maybe you can get a third contract guy in here where by the time his money is movable, you beat Drake London's money is hitting in place, or it's a superstar and you're paying multiple because you're not paying the quarterback. Let's see what happens with Alec Pierce out there, who would be really interesting in a space clearing role, along with Drake London doing a lot more of the heavy target stuff. But wide receivers up there. What was the Falcons this year? 8 and 9. Is that what I finished?
Back 8 and 9. So 7 and 10, 7 and 10, 7 and 10, 8 and 9, 8 and 9. Hey, the arrow's going in the right direction.
It's so cliche, but I feel like I'm very much like a proponent of the position of value, but I'm also very holistic in team building. What is the number one need for this team? Get better players. just keep stacking. I have a very like big over, and granted, my seat's not hot. I'm not going anywhere unless Scott fires me over here. So like big picture, if you just keep trusting, like you have the right people in place that you've hired for a reason, you trust their evaluation, and you do narrow the scope down, for some parts we talked about already, but it's draft good players. I mean, and it doesn't matter. Like, let's say, oh no, we don't need Falcons have needs, but like a cornerback right now, but he's our highest player on the board. You have a 4-year window with this rookie contract. You're going to need a freaking NFL starting quality cornerback we talked about the age with the cornerback cliff coming. AJ Terrell, and by the time that rookie contract is over,
it's over. He's on his second contract already.
That's what I'm saying. By the time this rookie contract, the hypothetical rookie, he might be done.
Done.
So again, I think you need to look at these rookie contracts from a 4-year perspective, and granted, it depends on where you are in your team building phase. Like the Broncos taking a cornerback last season that hardly played, you lost a year of first round rookie contribution. Otherwise, that could have mattered. But I still think you got to look at it from a 4-year perspective of the rookie contract. And over a 4-year sample, Scott, almost every single position could be a need in that time. So just draft good players.
I want to try and match it to need if I can, and premium position. That's how I want to do it. And for me, it's wide receiver, corner, defensive tackle. That's where I want the first pick to go, hopefully, and some free agency. I want free agency to go there, and then we'll see how the board shakes out. When we do these drafts and we say, well, we want when we're up on a mock draft, and we'll do one next week when we get home. That's what I want. I've told y'all a zillion times that's what I want. Then can I trade down? If there's not a guy there that in one of those positions, I want to trade down. That's number one option for me. But, we look at that and you're like, okay, I'm picking at 48 and I want a wide receiver, a corner, or a defensive tackle. And we look at it, and the first time one of those positions shows up is like number 80 on the PFF board. Well, I'm not picking that guy. I'm not going to pick that guy. I'm not, the boards are different, but if my board says 80, I'm not picking him. I might trade down, but I might have to go in a different direction. So that's how it ends up working out. Last question, Scott, for Nick, and then we're going to get going.
Yeah.
It was from Xavier. Xavier says, good morning, Scott, Nick. Good morning, right back at you. The Falcons are not projected to get any comp picks in this draft, but when do they become announced? Isn't that like just a couple weeks before the draft, Nick?
I think we should find out here pretty soon. I think it has to happen before March because you have to get the coaching cycle has to be finished because there are comp picks at stake for both general managers.
Oh, that's right, for 26 and 27 for those guys.
So you won't hear until this is a little bit more shaken. I think you typically hear it around the combine.
Okay, which is the end of February. Yep. And the Falcons their eligible player might be Drew Dahlman, but all of the projections say that the signing of Divine Diablo canceled that out. So that's with that one. And then we wouldn't find out next year on guys, Caden Ellis, Kyle Pitts, Leonard Floyd, Tyler Algier, Arnold Ebiketie. Those are all free agents that will have markets in other places.
Yep.
And we'll sign that maybe depending on what you do. But I think, especially with a first-year head coach, Nick, I don't think they just sit on their hands. I think they're going to sign enough guys to cancel out anybody that they lose. They won't get any comp picks next year either. That's what I think.
But Scott, I do have to fly myself.
Yep.
Here. It's
out of here, and I'll say our thank yous and goodbyes. So appreciate you, Nick. Have
Also
a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later.
Tell Chad that Chargers have requested a Jim Leonard interview for defensive coordinator if he's up. He's probably still sleeping. He needs another 2 hours of beauty sleep.
He might be awake. So,
but that just happened about 10 minutes ago. So
we'll see you later.
Peace, guys.
All right, y'all. I'm going to get out of here too, but do want to say thank you to our super chat superstars like Curtis coming in and Corey coming in twice, Javier coming in as well, Denver Luke, and Rio. Thank you for helping to keep these lights on, keep this forehead and nose today. Geez, bright and shiny as I'm on the road. The Senior Bowl stuff is about 3 hours later, so they'll be on at 2:30 Eastern is when practice starts. And I'll be pumping out the one-on-ones video here over the next couple hours. It'll take me to put these together. And keep an eye on that on YouTube. If you're watching this from X or from Facebook, it's just youtube.com/Scott Kennedy. Nice and easy to find. Also want to say, thanks to all of y'all for all the new members and all the past members that we've gotten. I know got some new guys. Michael Quintana rejoined and Keith Robbins also rejoined. And then Southside Ricky again, and Matt Anderson and GATX have been our most recent members too. It means a lot. So thank you so much. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Try and stay warm out there. The warm's coming. It's just not going to be just yet. It's baseball season, obviously. They start playing baseball next week. Games next week. It's going to be in the freaking teens this weekend. It's a winter sport. It's a winter sport in the South. But football is a year-round sport, and we're going to get out there and watch some Senior Bowl today, and I'll start pumping out some 4K videos for you on YouTube. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being here. Have a good one, everybody.